one spotted cat feeding to another. So this is our first meeting, well, my first meeting of quarantine, and he's busy eating a little baby warthog that he's caught. He managed to grab one, and the mother warthog is in the background busy watching what's going on as he's crunching away. The visual of him is not great at the moment because he's kind of tucked down, his head down in the grass feeding, but still super cool to see him. I can't believe we're actually finally getting to see him. I didn't think we'd have a situation where we would get to see him at all. He kind of has been hanging around so much on Cheetah Plains and in Koro and Torchwood that seeing him is a very, very, very big surprise. So super, super excited by this. It's really absolutely incredible to see him. Now, I wonder when he managed to catch this, because the guys said that they followed him and he came here, but it must be a fairly fresh kill because there's a warthog in the background that's watching what's going on. Now, generally, warthogs won't stick around if one has been killed. They won't kind of just sit here and watch, hours after it's happened. It's normally only if it's just happened, then they sit and they kind of watch what's going on and they work out, what's happened to their little one. So I'm surprised that he walked in this direction. Maybe the presence of another leopard around, he kind of killed it and then walked off in that area just to check and then came back. I don't know, but super cool nonetheless that we got to catch up with him. And he looks absolutely incredible. He's big and full and healthy, that's for sure. I know he's come off another carcass just before this. He had an impala that he was managed to feed on. You can see how round his tummy is at the moment. I'm sure a lot of you are super happy to see Quarantine. Hopefully he'll put his head up at some point, because I still actually haven't even seen his face. It's just been ears through the top of the grass, but I'm sure he will. Doesn't look like a very big carcass. It looks like just a little one, but you can hear him crunching away on those bones, and I wonder how big this is. Maybe this is one of the first little piglets of the summer, because we haven't seen any tiny piglets just yet. It's the right time for them now. We should start seeing little piglets, so maybe this is a very small piglet. And if it is, well, he's going to eat everything. He'll crunch through literally every little bit of that carcass. He's going to go through its sort of skull, everything. Hello, boy. He's very beautiful. It looks just like Mvula to me. He's got that kind of Mvula-looking face and light-colored eyes. What a treat to see him. I wonder if he's going to spend more time on Chitwa. That will be wonderful if he does, because it means that we get to follow another one of the lineage of Kruger. It seems as though the boys always tend to hang around, and the girls are the ones that have kind of had a much harder time of it from her lineage. Shavinzi went missing, and now Shongile has also not really been seen very much. And so the boys are the ones that seem to be thriving in the form of Hasana and Quarantine and Shavambalana. They've all been around and all been kind of part and parcel of this area for quite some time, and it's been much easier to follow their progress than it has been the girls, which begs the question as to, the theories that we all have. We always think that females will almost portion off a part of their territory to their daughters, but you can see the males also have an ability to kind of edge in here and stay in here. And with the older males that we've got around in the form of Mvula and Tingana, there is opportunities for younger individuals like Quarantine to set up territories and still stay within an area close to their mom's natal territory. I mean, this is where we are now. I've once seen Karula this far to the east, so it does happen from time to time that she used to come this way, and so he is still kind of partly in his mom's territory, which is pretty amazing to think. We always read books that say male leopards will be pushed away and that will never really be in their mother's territory. When they're younger, they'll be kind of cast aside and be nomadic, and only maybe later they come back into those areas. But we can see very clearly, he ousted his brother basically in the form of Shavambalana, so not same litter, but he ousted his brother, pushed him into Kruger, and now Hosanna seems to be hanging around. And in fact, Hosanna from where we are now has just been found not very far. He's behind Chitwa Dam wall, so we're not that far away, and so he's around, Tingana's around. It's a seriously interesting male leopard dynamic that's going to unfold over the next few months. I think we're in for a serious treat, and really, really going to be very, very fascinating to be able to see what goes on. Looks like he's almost done now. It doesn't seem like there's too much left there. I can't really see what he's got left in terms of how much of that carcass is still there. But just the way that he's feeding and the sort of the depth of the grass, it can't really be a very big carcass, it must be quite small, because I can't even see any fur or blood or any bones or anything like that. And if it was a decent sized warthog, it would be visible. Now, Sky, you say this is either an appetizer or dessert. I would say appetizer. We're in the early hours of the morning, so this is his smoothie before his day starts. He's just having a little warthog for breakfast. And who doesn't like a bit of bacon and pork sausage for breakfast? Well, clearly our leopards do, and you'll find Tingana and the likes, the bigger males, love to hunt these baby warthogs, and I'm pretty sure that Hosanna and Tumba will pick it up quite quickly as well. They're going to both learn very fast that young little piglets are a tasty morsel, and that they can be quite easy to hunt in that they obviously come out of warthog burrows, out of termite mounds. And so I've seen a number of male leopards, they sit on top of the mound and they wait for the adults to run out, and then as the piglets come out, they grab them. So I'm sure the young boys will figure out the technique as well, and it does make a really good appetizer. And I suppose if you're as full as Quarantine, maybe dessert is actually a better call with all of this, because he seems to have had his main meal already before this. His belly is big and bulging, and this is just a little snack just to keep things going, or a little dessert just to top off the meal. But there we go, he's standing up now. Now, he's a beautiful individual. He's still not quite the size of Tingana or even Anderson, Djuma, those boys, but he is a beautiful individual. He's a very pretty looking leopard, that's for sure. I'm super excited to actually see him. So cool. But as I was saying, it's pretty much finished now, so hopefully he's going to go. There's a really nice big termite mound behind us, and I'm hoping that's where he's going to go and settle. It's just on top of the mound and have a good kind of nap there. But I'm so excited. I actually am a bit of a loss for words, because I didn't think I would actually see Quarantine. I had kind of written it off, given that we weren't on Cheetah Plains and Torchwood area, and I didn't think I'd ever get a chance to spend time with this individual. So super cool. He's a beautiful cat though. Hello, boy. This is so cool. It's always a good day when you meet a new leopard for the first time, when you haven't seen one before and you get to see a new individual. It is the best thing. And as our word for the day, or a new word that we have in camp now, as Kirst has just mentioned in my ear, this is a flabbergasting sighting. Yes, it is, Kirst. I'm flabbergasted at the fact that I get to see Quarantine. Now, careful your head, Senzo. There's a very big branch behind you, and I don't want to decapitate you on our way back. So there we go. Just going to make sure that Senzo doesn't get hurt, and I'm just going to try and reposition. It looks like quite a nice little open section just to the sort of front side of Quarantine, so I'm going to just try and get in there. There's also a very large stump that I need to be very careful of as well. So Ellen, you say Quarantine will be 5 years old next month, so he's still a youngster. I mean, at the end of the day, male leopards really will only kind of reach fully grown at 7, so he's still got growing to do, and he will get bigger. He's a beautiful example of a leopard though, I can tell you that. He is absolutely one of the better looking leopards I've seen. I don't know if he's quite as striking as Tumba, but he definitely is absolutely beautiful. I like his face. He reminds me of a young Mvula. I don't know why, he just does. He's got a similar kind of boxy face, and those eyes are of a similar kind of color, so I suppose that's maybe why it feels like he's kind of that sort of way inclined, the Mvula side of life. And they all have a very similar, all of his offspring have had a very similar look about them. They kind of have rather large ears, and then they have these kind of light colored eyes. They're always very pretty leopards to see. So there we go. That should be quite a nice angle and quite a nice view to be able to spot him nicely. So he's just going to groom himself off. This is typical leopard behaviors. Once they've eaten, is to make sure that they are clean and well looked after. We saw it yesterday with Hosanna when he fell in the water. After Quarantine is now eaten, it is time to make sure that they are as clean can be, because they don't like bits of meat on them. They don't like to be dirty. They don't like any of that stuff. So they would rather be able to get themselves clean and to be able to kind of make sure that their coat is in good condition. I'm pretty sure, though, he's not going to be down for too long. He'll groom himself like this, and with the fact that there are other warthogs in the area, maybe, just maybe, he might decide to go up onto the mound to be able to watch them. But this is epic. I know he's not doing much, and I know it's a leopard and he's grooming, and we see a lot of leopards in this area, and we're very fortunate to see them. But when you've waited a very long time to see a leopard, and you've tried a lot, and you've had kind of tough times to try and get to it, to when you finally do get to see one. Well, he is, and I think this is exactly where he dug out the piglets earlier, or that piglet that he got, and maybe there's more piglets inside that he knows are there, and that's why he's come to this area. You can see there's a lot of disturbed soil here. There's a big hole that goes into the ground, and I have a funny feeling that he knows there's more piglets around and that he might want more. I said that he might go after the others if they are around, and I think he's trying to listen and look inside here and just see, can he hear movement? If he can hear movement, then you might find him going down and into that area to try and then dig and try and get towards these little baby warthogs again and try and pull out another one. At the end of the day, it's easy pickings for a male leopard. If he can find them, then he can get in there and he can get himself a really decent meal, because sometimes there'll be litters inside there of 5, 6, 7 piglets, even up to 8, and you'll find that means that he can just literally one by one grab them, and 8 piglets actually becomes quite a decent meal. You can see he's sniffing around a little bit. I think maybe he's decided, no, not there. There's another hole not too far from us that he's heading towards. You can see his nose is on the ground. He's sniffing, so maybe he's trying to work out where did these warthogs go from this section, try and pick up the scent of them again and then follow to wherever they may have run. It also could be where he killed this piglet. He might have killed it here and then dragged it all the way to where we were, and there's just still the scent of those little ones in that area. But he's definitely nose to the ground smelling. I'm sure he wants to find the rest of them. I'm pretty sure he knows there's more than just what he's currently eaten, that there might be a few other piglets. You can see he's just going down towards that hole, which is right near where that car is. So it is a very cool thing to be able to see that. And those guests there are being absolutely spoiled. You can imagine coming all the way to Africa and then having a leopard that's a meter away from you is a very, very special experience. And there's very few places in the world that you can have something like that. Sabi Sands has got to be one of the best for it. There are other areas that are great with leopards and good leopard density, but just the sheer kind of proximity and relaxed attitude of a lot of our leopards makes this one of the best leopard viewing areas in the world. You can see he's not quite sure. He's kind of looking around and checking and sort of seeing where he can go in order to find his piglets. He's sniffing also a lot of the trees, which means I think he's picking up the scent of another leopard as well. Mr. P, most certainly leopards would crawl into burrows or dens for warthogs. I have seen Anderson doing it, I've seen Tingana doing it, I've seen Mvula doing it. They do it regularly, and it is dangerous in that there could be an adult warthog sitting there with its tusks facing forward, and they could get hurt. Mofufanyan once did it, and he got his tusks from between his eyes over his head. It gashed all the way over. So it is dangerous work, but it is something that can be done. So there's a massive hole here that we don't want to go into. That's not going to be very good. Thank you, Noel, for pointing that out. So Noel just told me, she kind of gave me a little tap and told me that I'm going to disappear down an aardvark burrow. And no one wants to disappear down an aardvark burrow. It's not very good for Rusty. And I think Rusty has been abused enough by following wild dogs with Brent and myself in the recent years, so we won't abuse it more with an aardvark burrow. But like I was saying, it's very dangerous for a leopard to go down, but they will do it. If they feel like they can get to that warthog, they most certainly will. And if they feel like there's no adults inside there and it's just piglets, well, then they'll just dig and dig and dig and dig, and they'll actually use their paws to claw away soil to get to those and make space to be able to get into an area where they can potentially dig those little piglets out and pull them out. So they most certainly will do it. It's something that I've seen regularly from them, and particularly male leopards. Female leopards, they don't tend to do it. They tend to be a little bit more shy of going into a burrow where there's warthogs. They know warthogs can potentially be quite dangerous, but male leopards have no such qualms about doing it. He is absolutely gorgeous, this male, though. He is an incredible looking individual. He's got a bit of a dewlap. It's not quite that big just yet, but he really is a wonderful specimen of a leopard. Now, Mac, you're asking, is Quarantine's eyes blue? Well, blue is not really the word I would use for them. They've got a bluish tinge, but they are very light colored. That's probably a better way to put it. So he's got very light colored eyes, much like Mvula, much like Tumba. They've all got these lighter shades, and I mean, some are a little bit more blue or green. So in his case, he's got a more blue tinge. Tumba's is a more green tinge. Mvula also more bluish coloration. And it's just the way things are with these guys. That lineage seems to have some reason the lighter color eye gene, but it's not, blue is not really the color I would call it. It's just very, very light. Now, is he going to go up the mound for us and stop there? If he does, I'll be super happy, because it will be absolutely beautiful for him to be up there. Hold on, let's see. There we go. He is going up. Well done, Quarantine. Seems to like termite mounds. A lot of the photographs I've seen of Quarantine are up on a mound. It seems as though this is his favorite kind of place to hang out. There we go. No, you don't go down. Stay there. Yes, you're going to park yourself down. That's absolutely perfect. Hello, boy. Nice to meet you. How cool is this? He really does look very, very, very similar to Mvula in his younger days. And some of the other offspring of that same mother down in the south of the Sabi Sands, he looks very similar to another male that we used to see down there. I forget his name now, actually, which is quite strange. I used to see him quite a lot, and I really used to enjoy spending time with him. But I'm just trying to think what his name was. He was a little bit on the shy side. Mandlev, that was his name. So we used to have a leopard there called Mandlev, and he used to have big ears, which is a trait of the Mvula bloodline. But that leopard Mandlev and Quarantine are very similar in a lot of ways. He tends to have a little bit more of a longer muzzle than what the leopard down in the south had, but still very, very similar in a lot of respects. You see now he's spotted something, so he's definitely piqued his interest. Maybe the warthogs are not too far away now, and he's now seen where they are. But see, look at that. You see how he's just adjusting his sort of field of view, moving his head, and those incredible senses that he's got in the forms of his eyes and his ears are going to try and just work out what exactly is going on and where they're moving to. And if he's spotted warthogs, well, I can tell you then he's going to probably start going after them. He knows that they're around here. It's just a matter of finding them. And this is why termite mounds are the best thing for a leopard, because they get a little bit higher. It allows them to see over the grass and to be able to spot small things like warthogs in amongst these grassy areas, where they can then focus on it and work out a way to go and stalk them. So from here he'll be able to then work out, right, these warthogs are moving in a certain direction. I need to loop around and use certain environmental conditions to help me with that. The thing is about this morning is there's no real sun, so he's not going to be able to use sun in a direction to try and kind of get him into place and to use the sun to his advantage. Also very little wind this morning, so he's actually got kind of free rein as to move any side he wants. So what he'll try and do more than anything else is focus on cover to be able to then find what he's looking for. But you can see how he just moves and tries to kind of figure out exactly what's going on. It might also not be warthogs. It could also be steenbok or duiker. There's lots of them around as well in this area. I've seen Tundi make many a duiker kill in this particular section that we're in, so this is not something that I would be surprised about if he did see those. So we'll just have to wait and see. He's definitely spotted something though. You've just finished breakfast, you can't have more. Typical male leopard. Once there's an opportunity, they will then definitely take it. Papadana, Quarantine is a fair size bigger than Hosanna. I mean, Hosanna's getting there. He's by no means a small leopard, and he will get bigger, but Quarantine is definitely bigger. I mean, Quarantine's got quite a few years on Hosanna, and he's most certainly a bigger individual. But it's interesting with Quarantine. It's a slightly different build than what you see from Hosanna. Quarantine has got that sort of stocky, quite short legs, quite bulky head, long muzzle. There's a little bit of a different kind of look to what Hosanna has. Hosanna has a more sort of, it almost looks like he's got slightly longer legs and a much longer tail, funny enough. That's one thing about Quarantine, is that his tail seems very short in comparison to Tumba's and to Hosanna's tail. His one seems to be a little bit on the shorter side, but maybe that's just because he's a little bit bigger, and that's why it appears that way. But other than that, like I said, the Hosanna just has a slightly different look about him, more rounder face than what Quarantine has got. Quarantine's got this much more kind of elongated muzzle and much more sort of lighter colored eyes. Obviously, we see Hosanna's got those darker eyes, but in size-wise, Quarantine is definitely much bigger at this stage. I think Hosanna's going to give him a run for his money, though, in terms of later in life. It'll be interesting to see Hosanna at 5 years. I reckon he'll be maybe the same size, if not bigger, than Quarantine will be. I would like to see Kunuma again. Last time I saw Kunuma was quite some time ago, and I would like to see Kunuma just to see if whether the two, because Kunuma is the direct brother of Quarantine. They were litter mates, and so it would be interesting to see who's actually a little larger out of the two of them. When I last saw Kunuma, he was still a young individual, so it would be difficult to kind of base it on that, but it would be interesting to see, because I know he's now dominating down on Mala Mala and has become a fixture of that area, so it's going to be interesting to see. Veronica, yes, I have. I've been incredibly fortunate in that I have now seen every single one of Karula's offspring. So from the first ones, Tandi's Shadow, to her next two, which was Shavinzi and Shavambalana. Then she had Quarantine and Kunuma, and then Hosanna and Shongile. So that's all of them. I've been fortunate to have spent time with every single one. Kunuma I've only seen once, Quarantine only once, but the others I've seen quite a few times and spent a lot of time with all of them. So it's been an epic thing to see, especially from a female that has the legacy that Karula does. It's you know, she's a very special female leopard. She's probably one of the most successful female leopards that I know of, certainly. I mean, I've never seen a female leopard anywhere else in any of the areas of the Sabi Sands be as successful with raising cubs as she was, and to dominate the way that she did and provide food. I mean, she only, as far as we know, lost one cub. And to do that in 12 years of being an adult leopard is really an absolutely insane feat. If you look at any of the other leopards around us, they have had no way had any such luck. And we're talking about in the same area. So Tandi has lost cubs, Shadow loses cubs, Salehesh lost quite a few cubs, Moya has lost cubs, so Inkanyeni has lost, Beacon female before that, who else? Shavinzi, she obviously disappeared, so we don't know if she's had cubs. I'm just trying to think who else. Shikavi in this west, she's lost. I mean, there's lots. There's all over this area. They've all lost numbers of litters and whole litters, whereas, you know, Karula managed to kind of keep most of her cubs alive. And as far as we know, like I say, only one that she managed to lose in her entire life, which is an absolutely insane feat. And the thing about it is, we often talk about Shadow's kind of bad luck and the fact that she's had a lot of male leopards to deal with and a lot of other factors, and she's been in a kind of bad place in comparison to Tandi and Karula. But I mean, Karula still had to deal with a lot. I mean, she still at the end of the day had to deal with hyenas, to deal with Thinkuma Pride, the Majingalans. I mean, she lived through Majingalans, Matimbas, Mapochos. She had to well, just in time, because Quarantine has been down and grooming and really quite relaxed in behind a little bit of grass, and now all of a sudden he's up and moving again. So just perfect timing, really. The only problem is that we are a bit trapped where we are now, so I'm going to have to just move, but he's going to go past a vehicle and we're going to have a bit of a obstruction in our way. So let's just try and get back this side. So one nice thing about having Rusty or Wendy, whichever one you want to call it, that they're so short and small that getting around in thick areas like this is absolutely a cinch in comparison to driving something like a cruiser, which would be a lot harder, I can tell you. Now he is moving, which I'm a bit kind of, I suppose, not unhappy about, but I was hoping he was going to go and have a really good long nap on top of that termite mound. I was hoping that that was where he was going to kind of spend the day, and that this afternoon it would be very easy to come and find him. But that's very much wishful thinking. We all know that finding leopards is never that easy, and they generally are never that obliging to just sit and wait for us. Although I suppose we cannot complain at all with the amount of leopard sightings we've had over the last few months. We've been absolutely spoilt with how many leopards we've seen. We've just seen so many. And in fact, in the last few weeks, I actually don't know how many different individuals we have seen. We've seen Tandi, Shadow, Tamba, Hosanna. We've had Tingana, Mvula, quarantine, it's a lot of leopards to be seeing in the last kind of 2-3 weeks. So we've been absolutely spoiled, that's for sure. It's not only the sort of quality of the sightings that we've had, but it's also, and the quantity, I suppose, but it's also the different individuals that we've had. So the number of different individuals is quite staggering when you think that amount of leopards that I've just listed now has been seen on 1,000 hectares. I mean, that's really not very much at all, and it's a number of leopards to be scattered across that small area. It just shows you how dense the population is within the Sabi Sands and how small the territories for these leopards are because of that. So, I mean, in other areas of the world, so if you go into Kalahari or you go into the parts of the Namib Desert, you'll find leopard there, but those leopards are going to have territories that are bigger than the Sabi Sands for one female leopard. So it's a very different thing to what we see here. I mean, here our territories are absolutely tiny for these guys. And I think the largest male territory is Anderson's, and his territory is probably only, I would say, acres-wise, maybe 15,000 to 20,000 acres. And you compare that, like I say, to the Kalahari leopards, where there's females that will have territories of 100,000 hectares or 200,000 acres in that area. It's pretty insane to think. Now, I'm trying to work out how exactly I'm going to get through here. Hopefully, I'll be able to just negotiate that little section. There we go. So I believe Taylor McCurdy, who's kind of been a bit absent over the last little bit, given that Scott's cheetah have absolutely stolen the show and, well, quarantine too, I suppose. She's decided she wants to contribute, and she's going to contribute with something not spotty, but stripy. I am indeed, Taylor. It's been a most epic day. We've had such fun out here, and to see this leopard has been a long time coming, so it's been very, very cool to spend time with this guy. And it's like Taylor says, it's just been a most amazing show. We've had all kinds of variety of things, from big to small, from an insane cheetah sighting with Scott, who just seems to have the magic touch when it comes to those 5 and always seeing some incredible stuff with them, to our boy Quarantine, who's wagging his tail as he slowly meanders past another car. So we're going to try and just catch up with him quickly and just get one last view of him before he kind of disappears behind another vehicle there to finish up our morning, because it has just been so cool. So I'm super glad that we managed to come all the way down here and that he came to Chitwa. At one point he was on in Koro, and I thought, well, that's us done. We're not going to get him at all, and it's going to be a situation where it's another near miss. But as it's turned out, everything has worked in our favor, and Quarantine is now still with us and still around. The interesting part about this is he was heading west for quite a while now. He's now turning back east and northeast a little bit, but he was heading west for quite some time, and he was kind of coming deeper into Chitwa, which is hopefully a good sign. I think this is going to be a sort of trait of Quarantine's. I think he's going to start pushing Tingana from this side a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the future years we see Quarantine quite regularly around Chitwa. I think it's going to be one of those things. As soon as he discovers the dam, I think that's going to be a perfect part of it. Now, I know a lot of you are saying thank you for showing Quarantine. Well, I didn't know, thanks to me, I didn't find him. I just got lucky that he came this way, but I am just as thankful that he decided to come onto an area that we can go. So I think we need to thank Quarantine from all of us. But I'm sure Quarantine is missing the tip of his tail. It looks as though he's only got a little short, little stubby area. Unfortunately, that is though all the time that we have. So from short tales to the ending of our morning, it really has been just the most epic morning of driving around. I mean, I've had a lot of fun, and to see this leopard has just been a special, special, special thing for me. So I'm certainly very happy about that. I hope that you've all enjoyed the morning that you've had with both myself, Taylor, and Scott. It's been lots of laughs again to start off things, and then, like I said, the animals took over from there. So from Scott, Taylor, myself, Senzo, and Kirsten FC, we'll see you all this afternoon on the Sunset Safari.